بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Ask Eman, live on Eman Channel on Sky 757. We're also streaming it live on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, via our website. Humble reminder, please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to all our platforms, including our Facebook page and of course our Instagram page, and not to forget our YouTube channel. We are streaming it live, emanchannel.tv. I'm your host Qamarul Islam. Joining us today none other than Sheikh Abid Khan. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for giving us your valuable time. Jazakallah khair. Just to remind our viewers, the student number 0203-515-0757, our student number 07916841-483, our WhatsApp number. International viewers can use the WhatsApp number to call in directly into the studio, and of course feel free to leave your questions either through your WhatsApp, through the WhatsApp Facebook page, or on our YouTube channel. We'll try our level best, as always, to take as many questions as possible. Now, Sheikh, let's start with where we left last week, and that is the last question was, in fact, you've clarified, one of the question was, is zakat applicable if one has a mortgage? We're not going into the details of mortgage allowed or not, that's another subject, but we wanted to clarify, and you said that we're going to discuss this in this episode, and that is, if somebody has a mortgage, whether Sharia compliant or conventional, but they have mortgage, there is, we know, capital payment and interest payment. How does zakat work?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi hamda shakirin. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah waliyul salihin ilah al-awwalina wal-akhirin. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. So this is an interesting question, and perhaps if I just try to unpack the question to give some context for all the viewers out there. So the question is in essence asking, am I allowed to deduct my mortgage payments from my zakatable assets? So I have my zakatable assets, cash, gold, silver, share, dividends from shares, or if I'm a day trader, then the actual market value of it, all of those are zakatable. And today is my zakat date, for example, my zakat due date. It's been said that actually you can deduct from your zakatable assets any qualifying debts. So am I allowed to deduct my mortgage payments, which are due, have fallen due by me having kind of signed on that dotted line to actually enter into that contract? So now I have that amount that's outstanding against my name, says the questioner. Can I deduct all of it, part of it? And if I'm doing parts, then is it going to be the capital amount alone, or the capital and the interest part included all? So that's in essence what the question is. Now, what we begun saying last week, and we'll complete the answer today, is that actually there's something of a variety spectrum of views regarding the discussion when it comes to offsetting debts against your zakatable assets before calculating your absolute final zakatable asset on which you pay 2.5%. However, the preponderant view, the one that which we will advance from a fiqh angle, and which has kind of a very sound, at least rational underpinnings to it, Islamically speaking, alongside being a classical view from within the four schools of thought, or the madhahib, is the view that says actually if you have a qualifying debt, then that would be offset against your zakatable assets. That is to say, if for example, for the sake of the question and the answer, if I lend brother Qamarul, our presenter, £200, and he has £1,000 altogether, then actually the £200 are not his, and he pays zakat on his £800 only. Conversely, if I have, I don't know, £10,000, and actually I owe someone else £2,000, I only paid zakat on my £8,000. And so if you bring that principle to the discussion regarding a mortgage, in essence, the person may have, I don't know how much in their bank account, let's say £10,000 savings. But he then, or she then, has, a big mortgage, of, let's say still 500,000 or pounds or more, depending on where they are. Not in London, I would imagine, if that's 500,000, but they have 500,000 pounds against their name. Now, if we say all of that is deductible, then in essence they're not going to be paying zakat for some very substantial amount of time. So the position which many of the fiqh council said is they said 12 lunar months from your zakat date, let's say from today, would be deductible. 12 lunar months worth, because that already is deductible, demandable, etc., and that was an amount that was said as being thought as being reasonable. So 12 lunar months worth of installments is deductible from a mortgage, and what we're referring to here is actually something that's, if you like, a conventional mortgage, or kind of that's packaged in a similar structure, and I'll explain why in a moment, perhaps, as a follow-up question even. Now, the question then that precipitates from that and follows on from that is that do you say just the capital amount or the capital and the interest amount that's paid back on top of the capital as well? There are two views in that respect. One view that said that basically, yes, by all means, you deduct the capital amount because that's still a legitimate part of the contract. And so Islam says if you have a debt, then that's offsettable. You can deduct that from your assets. As for the interest part, then, it's not from the characteristics of Islam to kind of give a rukhsa or concession, dispensation for something that it clearly states is impermissible, the riba part. The other approach was either because of the fatwa that kind of gave an exemption for the first house, or because they said irrespective, even if we do not endorse the purchase, ultimately it's still a debt that the person is going to have to pay. And thus, the rationale behind deducting it from your assets, which is it's not going to be your money, it's not going to be staying with you, and it's already fallen due, that rationale holds true. It rings true even here, so you deduct the full amount. The capital and the riba part together, 12 lunar months. So there are two views. Now, you might ask, hang on a minute, that's a nice explanation. Hopefully you think it is a nice explanation.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. But once you've heard that, you're like, which view do I follow? Ultimately, you'd consider the arguments I've put forth. If you are convinced by one or the other, you're at liberty to follow that. Alternatively, you'd find a scholar who you feel you trust and have confidence in, and you at liberty to follow that scholar as well, inshallah ta'ala.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, a couple of some points needs to be clarified. Now, there are opinions, scholarly opinion, where they say there's strict rules on it that if someone is struggling financially, at that point in time, they may take this into consideration. But for example, someone is not struggling financially and Allah has given him or her the ability without deducting the mortgage payment, surely what should they do?
No, the point is that there's a question, classically speaking, regarding the debts. Are they deductible aslan in the first instance or not? And there are discussions within the Shafi'i school of thought and other madhahib regarding that. Those who say it's deductible, they don't qualify that by saying the condition of deducting it is that you're poor and needy, or you're kind of hard up. In fact, if you're poor, then you wouldn't be paying zakat in the first place, in essence, right? Or if you're struggling, again, there's a discussion. So the point is, actually, you'd be allowed to deduct it irrespective. Now, am I encouraging you to do so? I'm not encouraging you to do so. In fact, this is not even encouragement of anything other than zakat payment, and you should seek counsel from a professional, independent expert anyway. This is just information purposes. So, by all means, not deducting it may mean that you pay a bit more, and if you're keen to do so, because remember, there's no injunction saying you must deduct it. It's saying you're allowed to deduct it. And that's the point.
Okay,
and it's not for me, therefore, sorry to...
please.
It's not for me, no matter how keen I might be to see everyone pay zakat and the poor benefit all the more so. It's not for me to obligate and mandate on you that which Allah has not mandated, or which hasn't got scholarly backing. So it's not within my kind of gift to say, no, you mustn't do so, or it's definitely better not to. Inshallah, you'll pay more, and that would be commendable, but you're not obligated to do so.
Excellent. So now, as far as I understood, zakat is only payable on the capital amount, not on the interest.
You don't pay zakat at all on the mortgage. You're paying on your zakatable assets. That's your cash, gold,
when it comes to
silver.
deduction,
You can deduct either the capital, one view, or the capital and the.
so both together.
There are two views on the issue because ultimately they're both debts. They argue.
Yeah, because some may say that, okay, why am I deducting interest payment because the interest is haram?
That's exactly the argument of those who say only the capital. And the response that comes from them, from the other camp, is that actually, ultimately, it's still a debt that's going to be deducted from your assets, so it's not really yours.
Okay, let's give an example then. If someone
and also for another reason, they say because the cut is only due on wealth that's actually halal and pure.
So say, for example, if we separate the capital and interest, takes, for example, our £1,000 mortgage every month, 500 interest, for example, and 500 capital payment. So, for example, if someone wants to avoid the interest and only wants to calculate the capital, then 500 times 12, which is £6,000, they can deduct, for example, if they have zakatable of £10,000 or £12,000, and that's how they deduct
They'll have the remaining remaining 6,000. They'll be paying 2.5%
of that.
Yeah, which will come to £300.
Okay, that is clear. Hope that is clear. It's an important question, and it's a common question that we constantly receive, especially during the month of Ramadan. And Alhamdulillah, Sheikh is here, and he clarified the whole subject here. However, if you have any further clarification required, if you have any further question, feel free to pick up the phone and dial the number that is displayed at the bottom of your screen. We're going for a short break. Stay tuned with us. You're watching Ask Eman. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. You're watching Ask Eman live on Eman Channel with Sheikh Abid Khan. 0203 515 our studio number, 07916 our WhatsApp number. Both the numbers are displayed at the bottom of your screen. Humble reminder, please do like, share, comment and subscribe to our Facebook page, YouTube channel and of course to our Instagram page. And we're also streaming it live via our website, emanchannel.tv. Now let's move on swiftly to our callers. Let's see who's on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Okay, my brother. Thank you first of all. Thank you very much for calling in. Your question.
Okay, I've got two questions.
Go ahead.
Number one is, I'm a private tenant at the moment in London. I rent a property. And at the moment, my landlord is trying to sell the house, so he's given us notice. And we've been trying to find something, but at the moment, you know that it's very hard. So I've been trying to look into mortgages. In conventional banks, you can get a mortgage with a 5% deposit. Islamic banks, it's so hard. They want like 30-35% mortgage deposit, which is quite impossible. So I'm just saying, because the council is very unlikely that I'll get some support at this moment. But I am on the brink of getting evicted from my house. I've got 3 children, my wife. Is there any way or any advice what I could do regarding my housing, taking a mortgage and paying it off quickly or any other thing?
Clear? The question is clear to us. Second question, please.
The second question is, I work in a special needs school with children who have special needs, autistic, different types. And I drive them to different places on trips. And during the trips, we have to play the music very, very loud to keep the children calm. Not all of them. Some children, when they listen to the music, it calms them down. But I don't like listening to music. But because of that sake, I have to listen to it at that time. Will I get gone out from that? Will I be punished for that?
Sinful. Okay, clear. Excellent. 2 important questions. And in fact, the first question is related to the conversation we just had about mortgages and in particular about Zakat. If you've missed it, you can watch the video on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel and of course via website, of course. Now, Sheikh, it's an important question, the first question. Before, you've heard the question, but just I'd like to add, cost of living has increased significantly, rent has increased significantly. If you look at our wages or the public's wages, it's not in line with the inflation. So people are struggling and there is a genuine question of getting evicted. This is just one example we've had, but a lot of other scenarios are there. We know when the prices go up, the rent rate goes up, the landlord wants to increase the rent. Not in particular this particular landlord we're talking about. Now, what can a person do? There is conventional mortgage, which a majority of the scholar would say that is haram. Sharia compliant mortgages. It's very difficult for a first-time buyer or someone who wants to buy the property first time. It's difficult. However, an existing mortgage holder or someone who is well off, that's easy for them. What can a person do?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Just before answering the question, I should try and catch one of the details that the brother
And he said 3 children in the position, won't get even council property.
Sure.
And of course, in the process of getting evicted from their house. And then...
Did you say that he has actually received an acceptance from one of the...
No, not. He hasn't mentioned it. He's exploring a mortgage option. And part of his research is it's difficult for him to get a Sharia compliant mortgage, but it's easy for him to get a conventional mortgage, just 5% deposit, for example.
Sure. So it's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't be personally abreast of what different mortgage providers would be saying to the potential clients. But ordinarily, one would experience that mortgage lenders became quite notorious until at least recently. Not all, of course.
Yes,
for not being willing to due to the appetite risk or a limited appetite risk to actually give mortgages to people who don't have a certain substantial amount even in savings anyway.
Correct.
Which would usually be indicative of someone who actually has a certain bracket of earnings, which would then indicate that rent would be troublesome, substantial inconvenience, but not actually impossible. So I don't know if the actual, if you like, conceptualization, what we call now the tasawwur of the question, i.e. the mechanics, how it really works. But just going on the basis of the questioner's question, firstly I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant ease to both his situation and the situation of all our viewers and people in general, because no doubt, yes, the crisis of cost of living is very real for a great number of people. And we ask Allah Almighty that by His most beautiful names and lofty attributes, that He grants ease and facilitation for everyone's circumstances. Moving to the question itself, I think it's highly important that in such cases, we actually give that kind of almost straight at the policy answer, which is you really need to speak to someone who, one-to-one, yourself, a local scholar, ideally, or it doesn't have to be local, but someone who knows Islamic rulings, has an ability to show dexterity and understanding of situations, finance as well, specializes in that or has a sufficient adequate knowledge of that and can give you an Islamic ruling, a fatwa in essence. And I say that because just your circumstances, even according to any position out there that which as you pointed out, the majority position that would take great issue with anything that's riba based, is duty bound to consider the circumstance of someone who's going to be evicted and has family or children, or just even as an individual ultimately. So, and that's because there is an Islamic maxim which says, وَكُلُّ مَمْنُوعٍ فَلِلضَّرُورَةِ يُبَاحُ وَالْمَكْرُوهُ عِنْدَ الْحَاجَةِ. That something which is in principle, something which is haram, can become under supervision and of scholars and oversight, that in a given circumstance can be move or kind of transition to something which is now tolerated, Islamically speaking, as in that impermissibility, latitude is shown for it because of the circumstances, the mitigation of the extenuating circumstances. So that is something which is a well-known, well-founded, agreed upon sort of principle in Islamic law. So that's just one reason which is why I would say to you, in your case, you need to speak to someone of knowledge and an expert. More broadly, just for other viewers, yes, of course, we should point out there are those three options that exist in theory. One is the position which, or three opinions we should say. One which will say categorically it's going to be haram because riba is riba, interest is usury, something which is prohibited in Islam and in earlier scriptures as well, or in the Quran and earlier scriptures as well, we should say. And thus, all that you're left with is the option of rent, etc., etc. The other position would say that actually Islamic, home purchase plans are considered Islamic or permissible, and especially if you follow a scholar who you have confidence in, having read their credentials, etc. Third position says even, either they'll question the permissibility of the Islamic ones, or they'll say yes, but it's more costly, and thus in our circumstances, and this is one of the European fatwa councils has this position, says that in the West you'd be allowed for your first and only for your first residential home you'd be allowed to take a mortgage out. So those are the three positions that are out there. Navigating that is a tricky affair. You should ask Allah's guidance, make istikhara, beseech Him for His help, and then ask someone of scholar repute and who you trust and have confidence in, and then proceed with the decision, inshallah ta'ala.
Jazakallah khairan for that. And a bit of clarification, Sheikh has not given his opinion or fatwa about this matter. Let's be clear on that. He's given you the option that is available, and also in his answer he did clarify that please speak to a knowledgeable scholar on a one-to-one basis, get an understanding of your personal situation and see where you stand. That's number one. Number two, obviously we do not give any mortgage advice or any legal opinion around the financial matter on these shows, because Ask Eman is purely Islam question and answer and information and guidance given. For any legal matter, financial matter, please do consult a qualified individual, of course. Now, moving on to second question, works in a special needs school, and people with autism, sometimes he has to take them to a journey, and of course there's loud music being played. Take on that, will it be sinful?
So let's be clear about this, brother. You're an employee, you work, you're paid for your work. You are not someone who, you said yourself, who enjoys listening to music yourself. And so there's a distinction the fuqaha always make between two distinct terms. One is sama' and the other is istima'. Istima' is to listen to something actively. That means you're intentionally listening to something. It's something you're seeking out. The alif sin ta connotes there's actually desire and intent and effort or kind of an active engagement with it. Sama', it means it's passively listened to and you're not intentionally desiring to do so. It's just something that's being played and you're hearing. So it's hearing versus listening. Right, and the prohibition, according to those who say it's prohibited, which is the main position, the mu'tamad of the Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali school of thought, says that actually it's for istima', for listening to it, not hearing it. And hearing is different from listening, as I said to you. Of course, there are other schools of thought which, there are other schools of thought which have held the position of some, have exercised some. If you like, acceptability of music, but also I'd add the point that the question, while clear to perhaps some viewers, may not be clear to others. The word music is, in English, a generic term for any sort of, sweet-sounding sounds, and Islam hasn't given that blanket statement. It speaks about certain instrumental, if you like, accompaniment to sounds as well.
Okay. Obviously, we know there is something called as music therapy, but we'll talk about it in the next segment, and then inshallah we will move on to other questions. It's again another break time. You're watching Ask Eman live on Eman Channel on Sky 757 in conversation with Sheikh Abid Khan. We're back after a few moments. Please do stay tuned with us, and of course the telephone numbers are displayed at the bottom of the screen. You're watching Ask Eman. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the last segment. You're watching Ask Eman live on Eman Channel Sky 757 in conversation with Sheikh Abid Khan. 0203 515 0757, our studio number, 07916841483, our WhatsApp number. We're also live on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channel. Humble reminder, please do like, share, comment and subscribe to all our platforms, including Facebook page, YouTube channel, and of course our Instagram page. And we're streaming it live via our website, emanchannel.tv. Now, Sheikh, before I move on to the next question, in the previous segment we mentioned, and you've clearly answered about someone who's working with special needs, sure. And you talked about the music. Now, just briefly, there is something called as music therapy, and some of the doctors do even signpost it to us that direction, based on obviously patient's need or special needs, etc. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a well-established treatment form of treatment within the psychological psychotherapy kind of circles and profession for there to be music therapy. It's something which is recognized, and treatment is one thing, and kind of recreational listening would be argued to be another thing. And as I say, that's according to the position that actually takes issue with the listening to music, as compared with those such as the Zahiri school of thought, Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri, who took a different position. But all in all, you know, for example, just to kind of digress on the issue, none would be kind of comfortable or okay, even those who take a different position with music when it comes to, for example, profanity and lewdness and the like, because that's to do with a separate set of moral questions altogether.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that clarification. I hope it is clear. And thank you once again for asking such an important question. Now let's move on to our YouTube question. And Saida Khadija is asking an important question. Energy drinks, is it halal?
Important indeed. So yes, energy drinks, the scholars have a maxim. It's known as istishab, or the principle of continuity. That's to say that all things are deemed permissible. That's for scholars to obviously exercise, until there's an evidence to indicate otherwise. That's to say, وَالْأَصْلُ فِي الْأَشْيَاءِ حِلٌّ وَمْنَعْ عِبَادٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ الشَّارِعِ, as one of the poets said. And so the point is that if something is just not known to have any haram ingredients in it, then there's the principle of al-bara' al-asliya, or the kind of default assumption of permissibility. Of course, if one would do one's due diligence in that respect. Also, if there's any harmful health ramifications for a person with a condition, or even without conditions, then that's something which entirely needs referring to specialists and experts in that field and in that regard.
Where this viewer is alluding to a young viewer, there's recently some energy drinks have gone viral on TikTok or Instagram, and youngsters, our parents are buying for them.
How do you know that, Brother Qamarul?
Because we're in the media, we're part of the news. So, alhamdulillah. So through the news outlets and other media outlets, we have been told and we have been reliably informed that children are buying those online just because it's a craze that's going around, endorsed by perhaps an influencer or a celebrity, paying £10, £15 for an energy drink. Surely parents need to look into that.
So yeah, I mean, I'm almost... dare I say, I'm considering mentioning two aspects. On the one hand, of course, if not all of us, certainly a good number of us will have gone through an age where we're really not thinking that clearly, and perhaps overly impressionable and easily kind of influenced by whatever the most recent fad is. But really, ideally, and what our ideals teach us, Islamic ideals and teachings teach us, is not to be so easily swayed just by whatever's in vogue, whatever's kind of catching the wind of the day. Because otherwise you end up one place one day, another place another day, and you're kind of all over the place. And the believer stands tall because their Iman elevates their thinking, their emotional space. Of course, our Iman yazidu wa yanqus, increases and decreases. But one should seek to have a type of, if you like, substance about their personality, their character, which stands between them and just following whatever is the latest trend. So that's my kind of humble reminder to you.
Thank you very much for that. And with regards to the health, please bear in mind that sometimes it's not easy for everyone to have those kind of drinks. Some may have health condition. please cross-check with the qualified GP or a doctor. And anything excess, even in Sharia, is never allowed, Sheikh. Okay, next important question. Is it allowed to pay into work-based pension?
So yes, work-based pensions or occupational pensions, there are of different natures, and there's a fixed final salary pensions, there's money purchase pensions, there's the ordinary kind of situational state pensions, for example, for NHS workers and the like. There have been discussions amongst scholars based on issues of ghara, which means contractual ambiguity. But on balance, overall, the position adopted by many councils states that, I'm talking about within a UK context, is that they would be permissible, but that would still be subject to the underlying activity of the investments in which the pension funds are kind of directed. The underlying activities need to be halal. So, for example, the pension pot is basically a fund. It's a pot of money in which your money is put. And if it's, for example, I don't know, in alcohol or other aspects of the entertainment industry, then that, from an Islamic ethical angle, would not be generating halal revenue and dividends, right? And that's the position that's espoused by the councils that we're familiar with or aware of. Accordingly, you should, what would be stated is that one would seek out an Islamic, or what's often referred to as a Sharia compliant pension. That basically says an Islamically ethical pension fund, which would ordinarily end up investing it in things like property and the like, very clean stuff, so to speak. And that would then be absolutely fine. And what you might be quite intrigued to know, by the way, and I have countless anecdotes from questioners and former colleagues and the like, that they would actually, they'd speak to whoever the person is within their firm, even multinational big firms. They go to HR and they say, you know what, I would like my pension to be an Islamic one. And they say, we don't know anything about that. We've dealt with pensions all for the last 7 years or 12 years. Then they actually get in touch with the pension company. They will respond often saying, we don't even know about this, but let's find out. And they invariably come back saying, yes, absolutely, it's one of the things there, but no one's actually bothered to ask, so to speak. So if you make that effort, inshallah, you may well see some positive, encouraging results.
I was about to add that, but alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair for clarifying that. It is important that we speak to the relevant body, especially if I'm employer. And alhamdulillah, there are provisions available. It's just we have to go and seek it, because not many people are there that ask for it. So thanks for that point. Next question, again, holiday is coming up, and which basically means good weather, which then basically means, assuming this is a question from the brother, are you allowed to wear shorts that go slightly above the knee?
Okay, so according to the four schools of thought, there's a discussion regarding the awrah generally. There's the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ with Uthman, Allahu anhu, where Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, they're around a well. And then you have the hadith in Abu Dawud and Ad-Daraqutni saying, غَطِّ فَخَذَكَ, to cover your thigh. Off the back of that, the latter of the two reports, regarding which there is some hadith discussion regarding the authenticity of it, I should point out. The four schools of thought, so that's the Hanafi school of thought, the Maliki school of thought, the Shafi'i Hanbali school of thought, the Maliki in the predominant position they're in, state that the thigh is actually awrah, okay? The thigh is.
For men.
Yeah, correct. However, the Hanafi school of thought includes also the knee, i.e. the kneecap. Correct. And anatomically known as the patella. So that would be included as well. However, the Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, that's the Jumhur, the majority, they actually say above the kneecap is okay, so long as the thigh itself is covered. All in all, one should avoid anything that's going to lead to, I don't know, fitna and the gaze being drawn towards oneself in a kind of provocative manner. But beyond that, it's inshallah absolutely fine.
Thank you very much. Time is up. Otherwise, we had many more questions to ask, but hope to catch you again in our future episode, inshallah.
Thank you very much.
That's Sheikh Abid Khan answering your question. First and foremost, thanks to all of you that have sent us questions, caller that have called in. Apology, we couldn't take all the questions or callers. Inshallah, do call us back again tomorrow, which will be Ask Eman Urdu, or back again on Friday and Saturday. Normal Ask Eman resumes. You're watching Ask Eman, and if you've missed it, the video is available on Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channel. Humble reminder, please do like, share, comment, and subscribe to all our platforms, including our Facebook page, YouTube channel, and of course our Instagram page. Telephone numbers are displayed at the bottom of the screen. If you'd like to ask the question in Urdu, tomorrow is your show. Until next time, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum.